And if you think the markets have been bearish, just know that the bull run is about to begin. Now make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss the latest content, but getting right into the market watch, we have to begin with the number one card that I have on my personal list, and that is none other than Max C. And now I know that the pre-sales of this card were triple digits, but out of the gates, this card has been rather affordable to players, and I think there's been some pleasant surprises. Personally, when I first saw that Max C was sitting under $100 a piece, they were about $74, $75 a piece just not too long ago. That was actually surprising, and I was wondering if there was going to be an immediate buyout or if we were going to see a slight dip. And we've seen that slight dip. They're down to about $60, 61, 62 after that shipping. And yeah, they're like $63 once you go down to the rated sellers, and that's pretty good. So if you were looking to pick up a playset of Maxi, I would almost recommend doing so sooner rather than later. We know that there can be a slight dip again. It could maybe go down to like that 55 range. Honestly, I if this hits $50, I'm going to be shocked. And then picking up three more. So let me know in the comments if you think Maxi will go even lower. Should we hold out? Will we be seeing $40 quarter century secret rare Maxis? That would be insane. I'd be surprised. And again, if you're looking to get a playset, they could go down a little bit more. But we do know that in the long run, this card has a lot more room to be going up than down, just so you know. And I want to reflect that with the prices of one of the other best cards in the game, because let's be honest, Maxi's the best card. But the second best, and the card that stops it, is none other than Ash Blossom and Joy Springs. And again, you know, this card out of the gates, I remember, yeah, it was like 210, and I thought we saw even some selling for like that 300 mark in like the pre-sales, just if I remember correctly. Maybe I'm crazy and not, but we do see now with that second reprint with quarter century, we do have $150, 144 more precisely for a quarter century secret rare Ash Blossom. And again, this has two printings. So when we look at cards like Maxi, and I know it is not unbanned in the TCG yet. So looking at that price tag of about 60 bucks, just saying. And then when you go over to the alternate art, which honestly I'm glad TCG doesn't have it up right now, we do see that the price is relatively cheaper. It is about $83, $84, and these were about 90s not too long ago. So we do see a kind of tanking of the alternate art Ash Blossom, which should make sense. But in the long run, I do believe at some point in time after the decrease of this card does stop, which I think it does have a little bit more room to go down before it starts going back up in price again, we will see that a lot of players are going to be able to get a couple of quarter century rare Ash Blossoms a little bit cheaper than you would be paying right now on the other versions. And then when we compare to cards like Infinite Impermanence, which right now is pretty insane, we're seeing that the other quarter centuries aren't looking too bad. So right now, Infinite Impermanence, literally like $115 to $120 a piece if you want a quarter century secret rare copy, and that's pretty expensive. So again, and I like to just keep bringing it back to the Maxi example, pretty cheap in the long run. We see that over time, these cards do start off a rather, I'm going to say more affordable because it's still expensive, and they have that slight dip, and then they start going up, maybe have that little consistency line, and then we see the spike. And that's what's going to be happening to a lot of quarter centuries out of these older sets, especially the ones we're going to be covering today on the channel. So Infinite Impermanence, another card where if you got this early on, that was pretty good. These are really high right now, and I could honestly see in the future with Konami doing all these reprints and alternate arts that Infinite Impermanence in the future could definitely be a prime card for an alternate art printing. And if that happens, these prices will go down a bit, but I don't see them tanking anytime soon, and you even see the ultis still sitting pretty. And then we have to mention the Molcharmies when we talk about Stampede, because with the Fuwa Lost reprint, that's pretty good. And now we got the Platinum Secrets sitting at about $30, and I think that's not too bad. They potentially could go down a little bit. They could go up a lot a bit as well. And then when we see the kind of collector rare versions of these cards, they're sitting at about $30 as well. And honestly, I'm going to say these aren't too surprising because these are going to be the printings that you would want outside of the original quarter century secret, which, as we know, would be a little bit more pricey. So if you're looking for the alternatives, these are them, and those are definitely the prices that you're going to be looking at if you want to be picking them up out of Stampede. And then speaking of cards that saw a very cheap price out of the gate and then quite the spike, we have quarter century secret rare Necro Valley. And now I don't think this is a surprise to many players or collectors out there because the ultimate rare of Necro Valley has been a high priced card for quite some time. So the quarter century secret rare was definitely going to be a sought after card. And when we actually look at the chart, they were about $11, and I did see some for literally single digits. I think they were as low as about $9 when we scroll all the way back in time, and here they are. Yeah, a few 9s, 10s, 11s overall, and then we immediately saw them shoot all the way up to about $25, $30, and obviously it's been simmering down as more players have been pulling their copies, putting them on TCG Player, and now if you want to be picking up one, they're about $15 a piece. So not too bad. Honestly, again, that's 50% more than what they were at that $10 mark, but not that $25 or $30 mark yet. But going down the line of some other cards that we were definitely talking about, and they're starting to see their increase, we have Heatwave Quarter Century Secret Rare, because right now we're seeing they're about $7 to $8 a piece, depending which seller you're purchasing it from. And we were mentioning these about $4 or $5 a piece. And yeah, we saw they're about a little under the $4 mark, but again, with that shipping, it's closer to $5. And as we know, with this card being as hot as it was back when Tenpai was being played, it has definitely some room to grow in the prices. And the lower you go in the later pages, we see it shoots up easily to that $10 mark. And then very, very quickly, we're going to be seeing $15 to $20 a piece. But Heatwave is definitely a card that will be seeing quite the increase in price the more time that goes on and the less there are on the marketplace. And again, if this card ever is needed for a deck, these prices are going to shoot up. So definitely get your copy of Heatwave sooner rather than later. And same can be said about Grave the Super Ancient Organism. Again, this is a continuous floodgate. We were seeing it all the way down, literally $2, $3 a piece. And now if you want one, they're closer to that $4 or $5 mark, but that still isn't that bad. And then Summoning Curse is another card that quite some time ago we saw the commons were seeing a very fair price. So when we see literally $2, $3 a piece for the quarter century secret rare, this should honestly be a no-brainer to be picking some of these up because the prices of these cards are just too good to be true. And again, if the commons of this card were like $5 to $10, albeit they had no other printings, quarter century of this card will easily be well over $2 if it is ever side decked in the metagame seriously. And there's always a format for that. So do be keeping this card in mind. And then going to some crazier alternatives, I gotta say, this is a card we do mention. I don't think players take seriously except one player that I think did some buyouts. But we have OTS Anka Mufreet, the super rare. And again, these are really, really cheap, 20 cents, 25 cents. You're literally paying way more in the shipping than you are for the card itself. So when players start realizing they want to play domain decks or something to that effect with the Monarchs, then we're going to have Anka Mufreet be one of the best friends, being able to summon itself after getting a draw because you have no cards in the extra deck. And then speaking of domain, we have to use it as an example because this is a card we were talking about way back when it was around the same price of the Anka Mufreet. And right now, if you want an OTS domain of the True Monarchs, they're sitting closer to that $5, $6 mark. And that's actually insane. That's pretty crazy. So Domain was a card we were talking about quite some time ago. And I know sometimes the video channels, the cards we mentioned get a little repetitive. That's because these are cards I truly, truly believe in, and they do see their time to shine. Light and Darkness Dragon is another card we have been mentioning on the channel, and right now it has seen quite the increase in price. And when I say that, it's not like going up like a ton of money,
but we saw it was like $1.50, $1.80, $1.70, and now they're closer to that $3 mark. So if you have some, that's nice. I would definitely hold them. And we did have one seller have over 1,000 of them not too long ago, and it's not that he got bought out. He simply seemed to have removed his stack from the TCG market, and I think he knew that the calling signs were with the Morganite support, players were going to be using Light and Darkness Dragon, so quarter century of this card will definitely be fetching a fair price in the future and is an easy removal from the website if he was selling it for less than $2. I would have done the same as well. Parallel Exceed is another card from Tin of Memories that was a little lower. It was under that $2 mark. I think it was like closer to $1.50, and now they're like $3-4 if you want to get a single copy of them. So if you want some Parallel Exceed quarter century secret rares, I hope you already have them or you get them relatively soon, because we see with the Malice hits that this card will be needed in Malice or other Cyber stacks, and just to proceed with combos, and is extremely strong, and you need 3. After that, we do have Primite Drill Beam. We've been discussing this card since it was 50 cents. It's $8-9 now. That's pretty sweet. And then we do see a similar trend with the Primite Roar, because right now a single copy is like $1.30. We see some 74s up here quickly go above the dollar mark to $1.50, $1.50. So Primite Roar, Primite Drill Beam, these were cards we were definitely talking about on the channel way back in the day when roars were 10 cents and the drill beams were literally 50 cents. So this is the perfect segue to saying that if you're not subbed to the channel, sub to the channel so you do not miss any of the content, because we were talking about cards way before they spike in price. But let's finish up the market watch. Eradicator Epidemic Virus was a card we've been really pushing on this channel, because they were $11 a piece and then quickly shot up to about that $30 mark. Obviously a lot of people didn't buy at that, so they've been sliding down 27, 24, all the way down to that $22 a piece. That's actually decent. But again, once these start getting bought out, they will quickly get to that $30 point. And then on page 2, they turn into like 40, 50, some crazy numbers that are actually pretty insane. So we're not going to really look at that. But Eradicator Epidemic Virus is a card we've been talking about since the top 10 cards for Bonanza. And if you don't have your copies, they're only going one direction, because once they're used in the metagame, we know what's going to happen to the price. And now same can be said about the twins with Deck Devastation Virus quarter century secret rare, which is sitting about $24, $25, $26, and $7, and they were all the way low. I think it was like $14 a piece or something like that. Yeah, that was crazy. And now they're all the way up here, more than doubled in price, and they're not going down anytime soon. So do keep that in mind, especially when in regards to things like Eradicator Epidemic Virus or even Full Force Virus. It was about $5, $6, not too bad. And now if you want a single copy, they're closer to that $10 mark. And again, much like the other viruses, I don't think we're going to be seeing these slip too much lower. The Full Force has the most chance of doing it, but I don't think any of the viruses will be going down in price too much, because as we know, if they're ever utilized in the metagame, it is pretty much GG once they're activated. And then we have to mention the elemental hero, Air Neos, because after the reveals and confirmations of the Konami lawsuit, this is too much to not go over. So ultimate rares of this card, because as we know, we haven't seen a reprint of this card, and we might not for quite some time. They're sitting at some pretty insane prices. So yeah, like near mints, like $420. We see Japanese one down here for like 150, so that really doesn't matter, or 200. But yeah, moderately played, like moderately played first edition, $700. Light played first ed, $1,000. Literally, if you want near mints first ed of this card, it's like $1,000 on TCG. So your best look is looking for people who have this in their collection. Hopefully you already have this in your collection, because the price of this card is not going to go down anytime soon. And then the ultra rare of Air Neos from Strika Neos is also a pretty price if you have near mints, literally hundreds of dollars, still hundreds of dollars. Near mint $225, near mint first $375, and I don't really see any LPs that are not Japanese. So again, really dry market. This card hasn't been reprinted in quite some time. And unless Konami does make any announcement for a reprint of these cards, these prices are not going to be going down anytime soon. And if anything, will only go up just as time goes on, because of the lore and the fan base for the heroes. But if you've made it this far to the video, I do congratulate you, and we have to end on another card that we've harped about, Infernity Archfiend. Because for the quarter century of this card, we started talking about it when it was about $3, $4 a piece. And then very, very quickly, we saw the shoot all the way up past the double digits. So now we do see they're about $10, $11 a piece, but we do see some slipping under that $10 mark. And now why I find these prices interesting, even though they're higher than that $4 mark, is because as we know, Konami has been giving support to many archetypes in these quarter centuries, whether it's the E-Dragons or some of the other archetypes. So if Infernities are given any amount of support, or if Launcher is put past the limited in the TCG, we will see the prices of Infernity Archfiend skyrocket. And honestly, that is something I do think we're going to be seeing happen sooner rather than later. And if you got anything from this content, make sure to like the video and smash that subscribe if you haven't already. And if you want to see some mask off vengeful moments, definitely hop over onto the X and follow me there, just so you can check out some premium crazy content. But as always, guys, stay safe, have a good night, and suck it, nerds.